Go ahead.
Hey, Gary, how you doing this morning?
Fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sitting down to talk with me. Uh, can you give me the 30-second version of where you started to where you are now?
Okay. The 30-second version will be I got arrested in 1981 at the age of 17 for multiple charges committed in my community. Uh, I received a sentence. This is very important. I received a sentence of 82 years to life. Out the 82 years, I did 40 years from 1980 until 2020, when I was released April 28th of 2020. All right. That's where we at. That's a 30-second version right there.
Awesome. And then you just got released, right?
April 28th of 2020, just a little over 14 months ago.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on making a year. Year's a big milestone.
Absolutely.
So was this part of IRA, the Second Chance Act?
This is part of the IRA. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. So as people are looking back at community members who have been incarcerated as minors with these long life sentences, just giving some context for people who are listening, now there's federal legislation letting people relook at those sentences. And so people like you who were in there 82 years to life are now having a chance to come home.
Right.
Which is awesome. You're away for a long time and now you're out. What were your expectations after release, and how did your expectations match up with what the reality was?
Okay, the reality is this. This is first and foremost. This is in my situation. Being in an incarcerated space for that long period of time, there's a lot of mental trauma that exists there. So one of my expectations was to seek a mental health profession to make my transition much more easier, smoother, because I didn't want to have any harbor any ill feelings towards being incarcerated for so long and then come out and resorting back into that behavior that led me, to 40 years of incarceration. So the expectation I had of myself was the very first thing I did was I sought mental health. The very first thing I got into therapy, and I'm still into therapy as of today. This right here helps me to cope with everyday things that exist in society, people, my temperament, how I respond, how I react, So this right here has been very, very helpful for me, mental health.
That's awesome. If I can you talk a little bit about the trauma that you're needing the mental health therapy for? Because I think a lot of people don't understand. They think, all right, you go into prison and then you come out, and that prison time is just kind of like a stasis, like a purgatory. And they don't understand what people are really going through when they're there, that they have to deal with when they come out.
Right. Okay. That's a great question right there. One of the things I had to really overcome was the fact that I was responsible for taking 2 lives. Okay, so that heavily weighed on my mind the whole 40 years. And I took someone's mother, I removed someone's father, a financial provider. I removed that from that household. So I had to carry that burden for a long, long time. And then to make matters even worse was the fact that the victims were elderly, which was heavily looked down upon in prison. The guards, the inmate, I was ostracized for the 40 years because of my crime. So I had to seek mental health services while I was in prison because of the backlash of my offense. And not being a part of the general population, I was pretty much just a castaway. So that there in itself was traumatic. And to carry that burden from incarceration to the street, and then when people found out that I was released, this further compounded my situation because, some people in society, not all, but some still want a pound of flesh, regardless if I paid 40, 50, 60 years in prison. It's a mere fact of my crime itself. They're not forgiving, so that was the severe mental trauma that really, really held me back for a long, long time. And I didn't want to have those bottled up feelings and emotions affect people like my family or people who are trying to help me adjust in society. So I had to find a way to address that issue. And one of the ways I addressed that was, that I'm in ongoing therapy, twice a week, which is helps me tremendously.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Um, I think a lot of people, when they hear that someone has committed a violent offense, just have this automatic fear of like, oh, you did a violent thing. You are a violent person. How can I ever have trust around you again? But that was when you were, what you said, 16?
16 years old, yes.
And that was 40 years ago.
Absolutely.
What would you tell people about, who you were then versus who you are now?
Okay, that's a great question too. I despise that 16-year-old Gary Jaggers of 1980. I totally despise his conduct, his behavior. It was beyond reproach. That was the person I wish I could have reached back and talked to, but there was no way I could have talked to that person because that person was on a trajectory course, either get killed or spend the rest of his life in prison. All right. So what I did was, in order for me to correct that, to address the problem, I had to take responsibility for that conduct, which made it much more easier to deal with. Once I was able to take responsibility for that conduct, then I started to build in my life of 82 years that I'm going to spend in prison. And one of the things that I made with myself was I was never going to ever do anything to harm someone or to violate the rules. For 40 years, I have never received an incident report while I was incarcerated. Never received one. This is one of the reasons why the judge gave me the opportunity, because of my prison reform rehabilitation while I was in prison. I abide by the rules. I program. I developed a character in myself that I felt proud of, although the person of 16 years old was a very, very bad person, but internally, that wasn't me all the way. There was some good in me, and I had to find a way to tap into that resource to bring that out. And once I was able to do that, then things started to develop in me, and I started doing all the right things. I became a suicide companion mentor with inmates who had serious mental illnesses that need to be observed. I was on that program for 15 years. I mentor other inmates. I became a model citizen where staff and other inmates looked up to. So through my actions and through the hard work I put in, develop my character, I was able to demonstrate the person who I am today.
Thank you. You now have a chance that you didn't have before. You were 82 to life. Now you're out. What do you want to do with this chance that you have?
Okay. Oh, that's another great question. Right now, I'm in the process of trying to receive my BA degree in criminal justice system, because I want to be a counselor. All right, and I need the educational prerequisites to be able to fulfill that passion I have. All right, so right now I'm in partnership. Well, once the restrictions are lifted, I'll be in partnership with the Metropolitan Police Department Boys and Girls Youth Initiative Program. So my incarceration experience, I want to take that and be a part of the police department, and part of the initiative to be able to be dispatched in those troubled areas and help at-risk youths, to understand the decisions they make can be decisions that can cost them their lives or spend the rest of their lives in prison. I am one of an example that if they hear or see me, I've been in your shoes at 16. I made that terrible mistake at 16 and spent 40 years of my life in prison because of that mistake I made. So this is what I want to do. That's my passion right there, is to be a mentor, a certified mentor. It's called a peer specialist. That's what I want to do. And I'm working towards that goal.
That's awesome. You have done as much as you can to completely change your life and live the way you should. And you have come out and you have these awesome goals of preventing kids from making the same mistakes that you did. Now, there's still some people who, when they meet you and hear the label returning citizen, are still just only going to see that label. Oh, sorry, I think we just lost your video.
No, don't worry about it. All right. Sorry about that.
Hey, no problem.
All right.
So sorry, let me jump back in. So you have done as much as you can to change your life to live the way you should.
Okay.
And you have come out with this amazing goal of helping kids not make the same mistakes that you did.
Okay.
But there are still people who are going to meet you, see the label returning citizen, and your offense, and that's all
Okay.
they're ever going to be able to see.
Okay.
Have you run into people like that so far?
Yes, I have. I have. As a matter of fact, before I stopped working, one of the potential employers didn't ask, but what I did was I took my criminal history off the table by coming forward with it. I said I had a criminal history, and I didn't get into the specific, but I let the employer know that I do have a criminal history, so that part was taken off the table. So oftentimes a lot of returning citizens are fearful that if their criminal history is exposed, that a lot of times that they may not get the job. That is not necessarily always the case. You have to embrace that. This is one of the reasons why therapy has helped me, because my therapist says that because I have a criminal history, it doesn't define me who I am. That was just a part of my life. This is who I am now. And this is what I need as far as showcase who I am now. You can never get rid of your past, but what you can do is you can explain who you are today. Now, if their decision is still based on you have a criminal history, then that's their loss. But you're not supposed to put too much stock into worrying about why I'm not being hired, why do I have a criminal history. No, you can never excel in life if you stay stuck in that mindset. So I have run into one person, but like I said, I took that off the table from that person, from asking the question. I voluntarily said, yeah, I do have a criminal history. And the interview went fine, and I was hired. Based on my contrition, based on the how the interview went, I was a good fit for the company. Unfortunately, I had to leave the company because of medical situations, but I worked for 4 months for the company, and I excelled in my job while I worked for Safeway. So having a criminal history, it doesn't define who you are in life. It doesn't. It's just a part of your past. That's all it is. It's like fear. Fear doesn't exist. It's only an emotion which you give life to. It can't harm you unless you give it life. And that's how I look at my criminal history. It can't harm me unless I let it harm me. And that's my approach on that.
I think that's awesome. So many people I've talked to have just felt like their incarceration is a shadow weighing over their life that
Right.
just oppresses everything that they do and colors every interaction. It's always this thing that's like, do I reveal it? Do I not reveal it? Outside of getting a job and interviews, have you found your status as a returning citizen affecting your personal relationships at all?
No, because number one is this, and this is another reason why therapy is very good. This is why I encourage those individuals who are coming from prison, to consider taking, therapy classes, talking to someone in the mental health profession. It makes the transition much more easier, because number one, a lot of times, because I can't expect you to understand, what I did in my life, because you have a certain mindset, you have a certain principle which you live by. I had to do is this. I had to find someone who is on a neutral level, but is willing to help me make right choices. I have to make the decision. They just gear me or provide me with the tools to make these right decisions. So I won't resort back into the Gary Jaggs I was 40 years ago. And this is why it's very important, to have therapy sessions. It helps. It helps you cope with people who you may encounter in your life, who may not want to give you a second chance, who may have discriminatory ideas about certain class of people. So if you have these tools, we call the toolbox. If you have the tools in the toolbox, then you can be able to confront or deal with this person who have this notion about returning citizens. And you don't have to be indignant, disrespectful, or assertive in how you approach that. You can be very respectful, you can be very courteous. Sir, ma'am, I thank you for the interview. Uh, I felt maybe a lot was lost, but nevertheless, I appreciate your time. Even give me consideration. And this high therapy has helped me, that I like the person I am today. I'm able to communicate in a way that I'm not aggressive. I don't have to resort to violence, So I have encountered many encounters with, like most returning citizens, with people in society, as far as job discriminations or job failures, or the mere fact of being incarcerated is to cloud my head. No, because I took that off the table. I wasn't gonna let that be the main focus on what I need to do. That wasn't gonna hold me back, because I've been given another chance at correcting my life, and I need to seize all the opportunities to make that happen for myself. So I can't have my criminal history be the dominant factor in my life that stopped me from moving forward. No. Therapy helped me with that. Therapy was a very key component. It helped.
Awesome. Incredible. One last question, and then one really last question.
Okay.
So I like what you said about tools in the toolbox.
Absolutely.
And those are internal tools. But some of the things that
right.
People, when they come out, what they need to succeed are external things. Like people need housing, safe, stable housing. They need jobs. And there are a lot of, what we call NIMBY activists, people who say not in my backyard, who are worried about returning citizens coming into these quote unquote good neighborhoods with affordable housing and things like that, and making them more dangerous and more unsafe for their kids. And they don't realize the motivations of returning citizens who are released and what they're looking for. So for these people who are worried about their neighborhoods becoming more unsafe because they have someone with a record coming in, what would you tell them?
Okay, that's a great question. One thing I would tell them is this: is you have to have it has to be organized, whereas you have to engage the people who are skeptical about returning citizens. And one of the ways that you can have an involvement is to set up an initiative where you can speak to those people who have concerns about returning citizens. Everyone in life makes mistakes. The thing is this: is you take ownership of the mistake that you made. It does not make you an internal bad person. You just made a bad decision in your life. It don't define you who you are for the rest of your life. Now, even that person who is skeptical about letting returning citizens or giving the returning citizens the opportunity to live in the neighborhood, one of the questions I would ask them is, are you a person who is not forgiving, who doesn't believe in second chances? Has this person demonstrated, you don't even know me, but just the mere fact me returning citizens, now I'm confronted with this, that you're holding my criminal history against me by not necessarily not allowing me, but not embracing me to have a life for myself, or my family. Yes, I did some things in my life I'm not very proud of, and I took responsibility, and I spent my time in prison for those things I have done. But this is a new start for me. A new start in a new environment. I don't want you to fear me. I made that mistake, but this opportunity so I can be leading by assistance. I need the opportunity. I don't need the cloud on my head where every time you turn around, your purse, or you locking your doors, or you call them the police because you fear as though I'm resort back to the same person I was. No, I just need opportunity. You don't have to fear me. I understand your concern, and I take that into account. I really do. But by the same token, I just need an opportunity to show that I can be the productive model person that I developed to be since those years of incarceration.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think those are all the questions that I wanted to ask you. I really appreciate you being so open and sharing so much about your experience. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want people to know about what it's like coming home, or about returning citizens and what they're looking for? Anything?
Yes, it's one thing that that did run across my mind was you said the DC Thrive program is a program that offers transitional housing and other services for returning citizens. Is this being funded by an outside entity? And if it is being funded, is there any accountability for DC Thrive to show that the money, if they are being given money for returning citizens, is there any accountability? Is there any oversight?
Yeah, absolutely. So we get funding from a lot of different areas, specifically for returning citizens. A lot of our funding comes from the Office of Victim Services and Justice Grants from
Okay.
DC,
Okay.
OVSJG. So
Okay.
we get money from them to support our returning citizen work. And quarterly, yearly, we have to give them reports on our numbers, on how many of our clients recidivate who are reincarcerated, how many are we helping get jobs, how many are we helping come through our transitional housing and
Okay.
through our job certification program or our job training program. Yeah, people are absolutely looking to make sure that we're doing what we're saying we're doing.
Okay. Okay. All right. That was just one of my main observations is if you're receiving funding, is there in place accountability? Whereas, you have to show, you have to, produce what you're doing in terms of number, because sometimes numbers can be inflated. Numbers can be inflated, manipulated to serve the institution in which is being asked to give these numbers. I mean, are there any returning citizens that Thrive has helped that also can speak about the support and the resource that Thrive has provided them? Is there an alumni, of returning citizens that can speak on behalf of Thrive? Because there is a lot of skepticism, about these organizations receiving this funding, particularly, for returning citizens, but they're not really doing anything, to assist those returning citizens. And one of my main concerns is if I am to is to share my experience with an organization, I need to be sure that it is not about the dog and pony show, where it looks good for those who maybe make decisions that can affect the funding, because it is a concern about housing. My main concern is mental health. Mental health before housing, before jobs, before anything. That is the main component, is mental health. You have to be in the right state of mind in order for you to function and exist in this society, to show that you will not resort back into the same person you were when you were incarcerated. Mental health is number one in my book, number one. Before housing, before funding, because you have to be prepared in order for you to take on the responsibility of a housing, a job, interaction with people. You have to learn all over again of what it is to be in a society without the repulsiveness and the aggressiveness and the reckless behavior that you exhibit many years ago. So you have to have a right mental health state of mind, and I think that's very important. And therapy is one key component that can help returning citizen make a much more easier transition back into the community. And that's one thing that if the person in the neighborhood can have some reassurance is, I'm in a level of therapy, which is my business, but I'm seeking professional help to ensure that I won't make those bad choices again, that you don't have to feel threatened by my presence being in your community.
No, I appreciate you saying that. Yes. So on our website, you can see different, what we would call like a testimonial from people who've come through our program.
Right.
Most of our referrals are from people who are in the program, telling people outside of it, come get this, this is valuable. And you're 100% right. It's the internal stuff. It's the emotional support. It's helping people deal with the things on the inside that are just as important as getting a job, getting housing, getting your documents in order.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to have that part of you in order first before you take on any other responsibility. Because if that's not in order, you're going to make bad decisions. When a level of stress arises, then you may resort back into what you're most comfortable doing, is committing crimes. And you don't do yourself no good, and you most certainly won't do the community any good when you are a person who is not functioning on a normal level. So mental health is very important to me.
Awesome. Gary, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. What you said, I think, is incredibly valuable. And you have a great day.
You too. Oh, one quick thing, on the panel, what is going to be the topic